Hi everyone, this is Callie. Thanks so much for joining me today. The holidays are quickly approaching, and if you're still looking for holiday ideas, I hope this one gives you some inspiration. I have a light bulb garland type card. This card is quite simple and uses just a few dies from Lawn Fawn. I have the Christmas garland die here that I'm going to die cut using some cilantro cardstock, and I use some raspberry cardstock on the little bow. And then for the light bulbs, I'm going to use some gold for this rope here, or the string. And then for the light bulbs, I'll use 3 different colors and the gold for the bulb toppers. Then for this holly leaves border, I'm just going to use the smaller stem and the berries. So I've die cut that from cilantro cardstock as well, and die cut the little berries from red glitter cardstock. And then for the words joy, I use Oliver Stitched ABCs, and I just used a lighter cardstock of the light bulbs. Now to give everything a bit more texture and dimension, as always, I'm going to be ink blending my die cuts with some dye inks. This is peacock ink that I'm ink blending over some mermaid cardstock. And then for the red, I'm using chili pepper ink. It does show up very faintly, so if you want to use a darker color, like even a gray or purple for this bulb, that will work as well. And for the last blue bulb, I'm going to be using some fish tank ink to give this bulb a bit more dimension and color as well. And when I'm done with all of the bulbs, I'm going to do all the little foliage stems from the Christmas garland. So I'm adding some ink at the bottom of each of the stems and the center one here for this garland. I'm concentrating the ink at the base of all of the stems and just blending it into basically nothing into the cardstock so that it goes from a dark to light gradient with a super smooth transition. Now on a piece of cardstock, I'm using this jalapeno ink that I used on the Christmas garland stems, and I'm just ink blending where my garland is going to be. To give my cards a stitching border, I'm going to use the Stitch Stackable die here. This is the largest die of the small rectangle stackable set. So I've die cut that out, and now I'm going to arrange my garland at the top of this card panel. I've used some magnets to hold down my card panel at the top there, and it does get in the way later on, so we'll be moving that. But first, I put down this center garland piece and I start to work everything around it, and then quickly realize that it was just getting in the way. So I do move it out of the way, and I'm going to use the larger stems first to create the garland base, and then I'll re-adhere that center garland piece, and then we'll add all the little tiny little pieces of garland all around to make our garland really full. I love the ability to add all the fluff and dimension to this garland with these little tiny sprigs. Now when we're done, I'm going to go ahead and put the little bow together so we could put the bow at the center of the garland. So there's a little long tab at the center of the bow, and I'm just going to fold it over, and it's going to create a more realistic bow. And then I'll attach the little tails and hold it together as it dries with my tweezers here. I'm going to set that aside and then work on my holly stems and adding the little glitter red berries that I die cut using glitter cardstock. I'm adding little dabs of glue to where the berries are supposed to be, and then I'll just add the little berries on each of the stems. And I end up only using 2 of the stems, one on each side, so I'm going to tuck them under the main stem, and this will hide the edge of the stems as well. I really love the pop of color that those berries add to this garland. Now that the bow is dry, I'm going to go ahead and add some glue to the center of that garland and add my bow as well. And then we can go ahead and start working on the light bulb string. So the string of lights here, again, is die cut from gold metallic cardstock. I'm just going to adhere it and kind of tuck it underneath the garland as much as I can. I use liquid glue on that gold string, so once I commit to putting it down, I don't want to move it around a whole lot because I don't want that liquid adhesive to ooze out. So I'm just lifting the ends there and just tucking it under the foliage that's there. We'll trim off the excess later. Right now I'm going to put together my light bulbs. So I'm adhering the colored bulbs to the white base and then adding the topper with some liquid adhesive. And I'll repeat this process for all 3 light bulbs. Once all of them are put together, I can go ahead and add the word joy over these light bulbs and make them super cute and ready to go so that we can attach them to the card. Now I have to share how I got this inspiration. I always Google before I make cards, depending on the critters that I'm using or light strings or Christmas bulbs or whatnot. I just Google it and see what comes up. Sometimes it's an ad, sometimes it's other cards, sometimes it's just a picture. This one particularly comes from a Benzie Design ad that I saw. It had 5 bulbs going across the page with some garland at the top. And I was just so inspired by it that I wanted to recreate it for a card. So that's where my inspiration from this card comes from. Obviously, I can't fit 5 bulbs onto my card unless I did a landscape orientation. I prefer portrait. So that's why I stuck with the 3 bulbs and did a fluffy little garland at the top. Now for a simple sentiment, I'm using the Merry Mice sentiment, and it's from a stamp set with little mice, and I'm just going to use the little sentiment and stamp it directly onto the card. Once it's stamped on the card, I'm going to attach this entire panel onto an A2 size top folding card base. It's super simple. I didn't do a colorful matting or anything like that, and you could certainly stop here, but I decided I wanted to add a little bit of glitter. You can use any liquid adhesive or medium that you'd like. I'm using some clear glaze here from Lawn Fawn, and I did squirt out a big blob because I didn't test it out first, but that's okay. I don't mind a big blob of glitter. And because we're doing chunky glitter, it doesn't really matter if there are big globs of glue. I'm just going to add glitter to both sides of my garland. It's going to give it lots of sparkle and texture and shine. I just love the way it looks. And then I'll work on the light bulbs as well because I want to add the same shimmer and shine on the light bulbs. What I do on the light bulb is I'm going to match the pattern of my ink blending. So I'm starting at the tip of the bulb, going up just a little bit on the left side and pulling it up a little higher on the right. And that'll give it that same swoop of a dimensional look. Obviously, you can choose to glitter your project at any point. Since I'm filming and don't have a lot of wait time, I went ahead and saved this part for last so that I don't risk messing anything up. And there you have it, a pretty string of lights Christmas garland card. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I wish you all a very merry and bright holiday season. Bye, everyone.